So I'm going to change up the format, and I'm going to share all the notes below. But I'm going to draw an image for you. And I have two. One I don't understand, and one's related to a question. So I'm actually going to give them to you out of order. So let's do the first one first. Now, I want you to understand, these are deeply personal conversations. And so some context you don't have. And sometimes they're answering questions. Sometimes they're preparing me for things. But I have been given the impression I need to share them, regardless of what they mean and regardless of how it makes me look, because I think it makes me look crazy. And I'm going to say that my drawing doesn't make sense because, well, yeah. So this drawing, it's modeled off of my elementary school growing up, but some of the things are wrong and some of the things are right. So right here is the pickup and drop off part. There's like a big circle, and these are doors to the outside, and this is a hallway. Over here, there is now the actual one. This is a lunch room, but what it is today is it's an auditorium. And my drawing is off, but it's correct from the outside. So the hallway runs well past these doors where the drop off. This is a big circle where cars drop off kids and buses and things like that. But right here, these doors, there's a bunch of doors. Let's say there's like 8 or 12 doors. The hallway only has about half as many doors. And this part I can't really see, but the four corners, or the 3 of the 4 corners I can, they have castle watch towers, like keep towers. They're at the 4 corners of the building, and I know that, and they're occupied, and people are watching from there, or beings or something's watching from there, right? It's secure, I guess, to be the way to say it. Now I'm walking down this away from these doors on this outer edge, okay? And I'm going to use one of the, like, 1 or 2 doors on the left. And there's like an usher on the other doors. There's nothing special about the door I'm going in. Like, it doesn't look different. I just know that's the door I'm going in. And in this auditorium, I don't know what's there specifically, but I do know that there's like a stage or something. And it's very, very bright. And I know I'm going towards there. The usher doesn't really care about me. He's kind of like, if something was a security issue, he would bring it up, but he's not security. He's more of an usher or greeter, and I know we're not going to interact, right? You know, not in any meaningful way. And I'm walking near this edge, and as I walk towards there, and imagine somebody kind of watching from the outside. They're removing barriers or people and are redirecting things and furniture. So people and furniture from being in the way. And also, as I walk towards it, I'm going faster than I would walking. But I'm in control of it. So think of those escalators. You know, that's the sensation that I felt. But the image I got was kind of like going to warp, like the environment around me is warped, but if I slow down, then I proportionally slow down. So even though I'm walking faster than I should be by walking, if I stop or slow down, then I do stop or slow down. I don't keep going like you would on that escalator. And the keeps are in the corners. So from the outside, this keep is in the correct spot. But the doors here are in the center of the hallway. And I started walking way over at this other side. I started walking way over here. And the hallway down here is way down that way, way past the hallway. So the doors are only in a small section of it. The rest of the hallway is a very long hallway. So this is this can't be drawn to scale, is what I'm saying. Like, it's just not possible with physics. Okay? So there's that. The other issue is, so I asked a couple of questions. That I wanted answers to, that struck me with. One is which God, right? Because we have, if you follow Jesus, then Jesus is your God, but he's also God, right? And then you have the Holy Spirit. Then there's the Old Testament only God, which a lot of religions seem to be based off of. And then you have, well, I mean, those are the only two really that I was questioning. So my question was really, should I just focus on the first few books of the Old Testament, or should I look at like what Jesus is saying? So I got a couple of things that answer that this morning. One was a speech that Cliff gave, and it kind of like, so I've seen the speech. It's kind of like rewatching the entire speech in a moment. If you've ever seen The Matrix, where he like downloads knowledge into his mind, it's kind of like that, and then there's a reference to it in my mind, and that's how something like that comes to me. So I saw an image of him in that speech as an event and content simultaneously and almost instantly. But in the speech, he's talking about, we don't question that there's Jesus. There's historical evidence. There's all that. And if you want to see it, you could look up Dr. Cliff something, is Jesus real, or something like that. But anyways, that answered that question for me. So then it just becomes, what did he say? Because that's validation. As to which religion, and again, this is a private conversation between me and God. I'm just sharing it with you, and I don't really know why. I was told to. It's put in my heart to do so, so I'm doing it. So imagine you're, and I'm not a farmer, so I might mess this up. And this also kind of follows the same layout. I don't know if that's important. But there's like a chute, you go down a chute, and then after that chute, you're in like this fenced-in area. And then in that fenced-in area, you eat. Now, I saw this before the school. So it just dawned on me. They may be related because the design, the architecture, they're very similar, right? Long hallway, open building, open area. But there's animals going down them. And the animals that are going down them, they don't match anything here on Earth. And they're young. I know they're young. They're not really small, but it's not about them. It's something in them that needs to mature. I don't know that I can explain that. I have an explanation. I think they're souls or spirits, and the creatures are kind of like people, but not people in that context. I don't know. They don't look like people. They look like four-legged animals, but they don't really feel like animals. Yeah, I don't have words to articulate it, but from the perspective of the outside looking at them, they are how we would look at chickens or worms or something. Like they're very different from us. They're ants, right? But babies, like baby chickens, right? They need help. They need guidance, and except that it's more than that. It's the only way I can explain it. So they go into this field. Not all of them are the same. They're all the same creature. They're all the same thing, but they don't all belong to the same farmer. Think Tragedy of the Commons, except they don't run out of space. Now those farmers are kind of watching them from like on the outside. When I say on the outside, I mean like kind of like a video game, except they're waiting for some of them to pop out like a video, like a gumball machine. But if they run outside that fence, they'll get into trouble. Think about like chickens. We fence them in. We keep them in fenced in areas where they're going to be safe, because we can keep that area safe. We know that area is safe. And if they go outside of that, they may be fine, but they might not be safe. And sometimes they'll go, and the people or beings watching from the outside in, they can like redirect them back into the fence. They don't do it by like going in and like grabbing them, but they put barriers in their way, or they put incentives to kind of like guide them back in. So they can still refuse and just kind of go wander off, right? In my context, what I got was there's a when I had my chickens, I had them in a fenced-in area, but I let them roam free in the yard and every now and again. And I found out there was a hole in the fence to my neighbor's yard. And I couldn't stop them from going there, but I could put a barrier to prevent them from going through next time. But in the meantime, I had to get them to come back. So I lured them back in, and then I put a barrier so they wouldn't go through it. It's kind of like that. But I'm not going to sit there and like actively monitor them in that hole and each individual chicken. Like, that's not sustainable. So I altered their environment, situation, things like that to kind of make them do that. It felt like that to me, but in the context of doing it in a SimCity sense. Yeah. So, and I haven't played SimCity in decades, so I don't know why that's come up multiple times now. So those are the two visions and answers. And that last one, there was a little bit of a break between when I saw it. So on my timestamps, 11:07, it takes a while to go through all that, right? And I stopped writing all the timestamps. But then I saw Jesus smile, and then there's a minute and a half or so before the next thing, which is a task. That task was empty. I saw an empty plate, an empty cup, and a silent coffee machine, which to me meant fasting today. And then and immediately after that, I saw a bottle of water in use, and then there was a break, and I saw a tablet, I just said tablet. I'll post all that, and it's raw form. So as far as questions, like, what does it mean to me, right? Ultimately, this isn't what you got from it. Again, this is a conversation between me and God. I'm just sharing it with you. And so it just dawned on me. I've had to redo this video to kind of keep it coherent and short and not jump back and forth. But I think those two images are related, given that they're the same shape, right? So they're related somehow, but I don't know how. I'm going to think more about it. The other thing is, the two questions that I ask is, which God? Well, it doesn't matter. I heard Jesus, I know his voice, so that's the one I'm going to follow. That might change later on, or I might be thinking it's a different voice and just describing it to Jesus. But functionally speaking, it doesn't matter. Whoever it is, whoever my gardener is, whoever my cattleman is, or whatever, right? The farmer will call me and direct me as they see fit. I am talking to them. I am praying to them. I am listening to them. And regardless if you follow the Bible, you should be doing that for yourself. This is just how I'm doing it. I'm trying to be a good example. Unfortunately, I'm an example full of sin, so don't follow me, but adopt the patterns that are good and that, apply them to your own life. Read the Bible, study the Bible. What does the Bible tell you? If the Bible tells you and you're studying and you're praying and you're like, this Bible is wrong, read a different one. Read a few, right? Maybe you're in the wrong religion for you. Maybe it's not speaking to you. Stop focusing on whether it's right or wrong. Start focusing on whether, when you pray and when you study it, whether it fits. your soul, not your feelings, your soul. If that doesn't make sense or it doesn't feel like it fits, then, maybe there's a mismatch, but don't act in haste because God is patient. You don't have to act in a hurry, and he'll give you multiple signs if you're unsure. So if you're not sure, just say, God, I'm not sure. Please give me clarity. Please make it known. Please tell me, with multiple people or multiple places or whatever. And then you'll be given your answer. Just be on the lookout for what the answer is. And be open to it not being what you want. So you have to get, this is what I struggle with, you have to get your mind out of it. Once you get your mind and wants and desires and your personal interests out of it, you'll be able to hear him more clearly, and you'll be able to hear differentiate the fakes that are trying to mislead you. But if you're not following the Bible, at the very least the Old Testament, right, it should be in here. It should be in here. I have been struggling, if you notice first few videos, to find the passages that fit. And I just noticed today that's becoming a little bit easier. So again, this is a conversation between me and God. He's directing me specifically, not you. You do not want to take what I am being told for you. I want to be very clear about that. But if you don't have guidance, I'm hoping this helps you. I think that's what it is. I think I have a lot of people that are being placed into my life to help guide me. You don't want to do this alone. You don't want to do it in secret. But you want to be careful who you let in too. So, but that's a whole other thing. I'm sure I'll have to touch on it later. And you'll see how I handle it. And you can take what I've learned, good and bad. You can pray on it and find out how you need to address that in your life. But the first thing is you need to be able to listen to God. And you need to be able to talk to God. And you need to talk to him frequently. Because if you talk to him frequently and you listen frequently, he'll get used to hearing him. And then you will know his voice clearly. Just like I got 2 messages in the beginning and I knew they weren't God. Something that's interesting too, I don't always get this, but I know, I usually know when I'm listening time is over. And you'll see in the notes if you look below. I knew I was disconnected or hung up on. So again, I am translating a feeling or a sensation that doesn't really make any sense. But as far as the questions I had, let's circle back to those real quick. Which God? Jesus. Okay. And if Jesus is the way for me, not necessarily for you, but if Jesus is the way, then my next thing is, and this is something that I've been given, is what does Jesus say? Like, what are specifically his rules? And I think I'm going to study that live with you. So you can find out how terrible I am at doing that. Now, I'm not sure if that's what I'm meant to do, but that is one of the ideas that's been an ongoing theme that's kind of developed over time, that I'm going to be doing some live content. I thought it was Bible study, researching kind of like I did about tattoos. I think it's going to be the same thing, but I think it's going to be, so far what I think, I'm going to have to ask about it. It feels like it's going to be chronologically going through what Jesus has said, what it means to me, and me writing down like a study guide for me. Now, the study guide wouldn't be a replacement for the Bible. It's just what I learned from where. And then if those points become important, I can then later look at what they said and look at what the rest of the Bible says about it. I hope that makes sense. But I feel like that might be the correct way to forward, but I have not prayed on that yet. And the other thing was fasting today. I'm supposed to fast today. Now I've been asking for a lot of clarity on my income situation. And I have some paths forward. But today I feel like I need to study the Bible and see what Jesus says and prepare for these last videos. And I'm also being told to fast. So usually, in a lot of parts of the Bible, you would fast to find an answer. You don't brag about fasting. You don't want to do it as pageantry. And that's one of the problems I have with some of these videos, is a lot of it's like, feels like I'm doing it as I want to be careful that I'm not doing it like the Pharisees would do it. So I think I have to make sure that I do it in an open and honest way. You've seen my ups, you've seen my downs. And I have been, I guess, mocked. I don't want to say mocked, because it wasn't necessarily a thing. I've been told that it was a weakness or flaw or something like that. And now it kind of feels like I'm being directed to expose that. What I think, what I've been told by this other person was a flaw. Doesn't mean it's a flaw. Could be that's just how I've been built, but I've been told over and over again that Jesus has me and that I am to be visible, that I'm to show God's work in me. Well, I can't do that and hide what's happening. Even if I'm wrong, even if I go off base, even if I'm left astray. The only thing I can do is be completely honest about what's happening and how I'm feeling. If I get emotional, I get emotional. If I'm not, I am not. I need to share and be honest with you. And I that embarrasses me, and that worries me. What are people going to think about me? And I'm basically being told that's not my concern. So I don't know why that's not my concern. That feels very silly to me. But you cannot give yourself over to a master and dictate terms of that servitude. Right? I wish you could, but you can't. And to make matters worse, the impression I get is that if you are part of Jesus's flock, you don't have a choice. He's going to call you when he calls you. You are going to serve when he calls you to serve. How and where and what that looks like is completely irrelevant to your wants and desires. And if he needs to, take rough coal and crush it into a diamond, he's going to do that. He's going to prepare you for it. He's going to help you through it. But he's going to do that because he needs that diamond. On the other hand, he doesn't always need a diamond. Sometimes he wants some coal. These are terrible analogies, but I hope you get where I'm going. We have absolutely no control over that. We have absolutely no understanding of that. And I bring that up because I've been reading Job. Now, if you're not familiar with Job, basically it reads like this guy is being tormented by the devil because God's allowing it and saying you have permission, right? Because Jesus has dominion of all. So Jesus has to give the devil permission to do these things. And he says, you can go after my loyal servant Job. If you look at it from the perspective that he's being punished, yeah, it certainly looks that way, right? He loses everything. He's going through just a terrible time. I don't know where this happened. I don't know when this mind shift occurred. But I look at it, and that gives me hope, because I'm struggling right now. And you're like, well, how does that give you hope? So part of Job's issue is that he wants it to be fixed on his timeline. God does not operate on your timeline. You cannot go to your servant. You cannot, as a servant, go to your master and say, I need you to fix me dinner at this time. I need you to give me my daily bread right now. No, that's not how that works. Sometimes he may withhold. Apparently, he's withholding my daily bread for me today. Okay? Do I know why? Not a clue. But I actually was very uplifted by listening to Job, and I'll tell you why. First of all, God did not harm Job. And it may sound like a subtle distinction, a fine line. By allowing him to come to harm and knowing that somebody's going to harm him and just being like, I'm not going to protect him anymore. God never harmed him himself. And I have a recurring theme for that I've shared with a lot of people. Kind of like your father would tell you, don't put your hand on the hot stove, don't put your hand on the hot stove. That's kind of like how I feel a sin against God is. God's like, don't put your hand on the hot stove. If you do, the action of doing that is what might harm you, right? Or it could be the environment that harmed you. Or it could be like my chickens running outside the fence where I can protect them, right? We don't know, and we don't know what's happening around and external. And even in the story of Job, I don't know if that God removing protection thing, I don't know if that conversation took place, right? I mean, ultimately, I don't even know if Job took place, if it's one person or just an allegory. But what I got from it is that God never stopped loving him, never caused him any harm. Even though harm and discomfort followed him, even though it occurred to him, even though God could have stopped it. God is all powerful. He can stop it. But we don't know what we don't know, and there's something more to outside of what we can experience. And I firmly believe that. So the question then just is, does God have our best interests at heart? Do we love him? Do we trust him? And do we trust him enough to follow him? And Job is telling me, reading it, yes. He loves us, he trusts us, and even though we may be uncomfortable at times, and we may suffer at times, it is not without purpose, even if we can have no understanding of what that purpose is. So, one of the things that I've been getting over and over again, and this is before I read Job, but it's a couple of phrases, and I don't like where they're going. I don't like what they mean. But again, as a servant, I cannot pick. One is endure, endure, endure. No matter what I am dragged through, endure and move forward. Endure and move forward. The other thing is unbreakable, unshakable faith. He's built me for that. And I have trust issues. So figure that contradiction out, okay? I get a little teary-eyed. Unbreakable, unshakable faith. I'm getting to the point when God says do something. If I legitimately believe that God said that, I'll do it. That is why these videos are here. That's why they're here. Yeah, I feel very foolish doing these. I feel very exposed and very foolish. But I'm doing them anyways, as best I can. So, with that, I'm going to carry on with my morning. I'm going to go sit outside. I'm going to enjoy the world that God has made for us to enjoy. And I'm going to try to figure out what it is he wants me to do today to fulfill his plan for me. And I hope that you are able to do the same. I'll follow up with you this evening and see how it's turned out.